As you've probably heard, the brand new AMD RX 6500 XT is pretty disappointing, to say the least. It's objectively not a good card, and it didn't get any positive press, like at all, until today. Because in this video we're going to get the RX 6500 XT running some games in WQHD in a way that allows for enjoyable gameplay. So let's talk about that. As the RX 6500 XT only has 4GB of VRAM, we will need to actually fine-tune some of the games to make them playable, because using more than 4GB of VRAM would of course cause severe frame drops. You usually lose around 50% or more for your performance, rendering the games unplayable in most cases. But there are some games that actually work. By the way, the whole system that I've used can be seen in the description. But let's just say it's using an i9 9900K and 32GB of RAM, and it only offers PCI Gen 3, which will reduce the FPS by around 10% in comparison with PCI Express Generation 4, for which you need a somewhat pretty new system. As of now, the vast majority of gamers don't have PCI Express Generation 4 yet. Before we start, an important side note. I had to record the games via OBS, which reduced the FPS by around 10%, so the actual numbers are a bit higher. But the average and 1% low FPS have been of course measured without recording, so they are what you should focus on. Starting with Fortnite, in which I actually saw an average of 121 FPS using the so-called Pro settings, meaning everything on low except the view distance, which was set to epic. The 1% low was 69, which could become higher after playing a few more matches until really everything is loaded into your system. So to be fair, it would perfectly be possible to play Fortnite with that GPU using WQHD as a resolution. Even using a fast 120Hz monitor would make sense, so that's actually not the worst start to begin with. Sure, The Witcher 3 is around 6 years old as of now, but it's still an important game for benchmarks. So I was firing it up with WQHD and the high preset without hairworks, resulting in a playable average FPS of 55 and a 1% low of 42. Now I know that's not 60 FPS, but you could lower some settings to achieve kind of stable 60 FPS in that game. And this title, in my opinion, clearly benefits from higher resolutions and textures. Please keep in mind that recording took away some FPS as mentioned before, so the numbers in the lower left corner are what's important. I personally would totally play this game this way. Next up is GTA 5, in which I was using some very high settings, which still leave some headroom VRAM wise. Sure, the game is pretty old as of now, but it's still very popular among gamers thanks to the online mode. So I saw a perfect playable average of 62 FPS and a stable 1% low of 51 FPS. You could just cap the FPS at 60 to increase stability. Again, even critics can't really complain here, I guess. I mean, if GTA 5 was your main game, this GPU would actually make sense for you as of right now, if you can't get anything else, that is. Anno 1800 is another game I've tested in WQHD today. I was using the medium preset, and the average FPS is totally depending on your game style and the size of your cities and your CPU. So let's just say I saw an average of around 69 FPS and a 1% low of around 28 FPS. The game is perfectly playable this way, as you don't need a stable 60 FPS here. And the game surely does look neat at WQHD for sure. Those extra details aren't hurting anyone. Horizon Zero Dawn was probably the newest and most demanding game I've tested in WQHD for the RX 6500 XT. So using the medium preset, I saw an average of 41 FPS and a very stable 1% low of 35 FPS. So depending on the used monitor, you could cap the FPS at 30. So we're kinda in PS4 area here, I guess, with a higher resolution of course. Still, it is playable if you don't need 60 FPS to enjoy a video game. Far Cry 5 isn't that demanding, and at high settings I was getting an average of 55 FPS with a 1% low of 44 FPS. Me personally, I'm using an adaptive sync monitor, so I don't need 60 FPS and I'm perfectly fine with 55 FPS. You could of course lower the settings to medium to get 60 FPS on average though. The game looks really good on high settings and WQHD in my opinion. As you can see here, the VRAM is almost full, so it could actually become critical in a few situations. So maybe using medium textures or lower some of the other settings could be a solution. I was also testing the pretty old but still good Bioshock Infinite to see how that would run on ultra settings and saw a perfectly playable 95 FPS on average with a great 1% low of 75 FPS at WQHD. Of course, the game is old, but it's still good, so you could definitely play games like this at high settings and WQHD or maybe even on 4K. And last but not least, we'll have a look at Resident Evil 2, which is a well-made and optimized console port. On medium-ish settings, I saw an average of around 57 FPS and a great 1% low of 42 FPS using WQHD on the RX 6500 XT, so that is once again perfectly playable and enjoyable. Now as a conclusion, in general, we could say that the 4GB of VRAM, of course they are clearly too small, no doubt about that. And the card is just not a good deal in general. I would only recommend it if you're super desperate, but with some tweaking and trying out, you can actually play quite a lot of games, even in WQHD, as we've just proved. Now, that is all for today. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit the subscribe button for more RX 6500 XT content and soon RTX 3050 videos as well. Hit that bell and that thumbs up. Thanks for watching, see you next time, bye bye and tschüss.